This is Tuesday, last day of the month, and we're about to go into April, and it looks like things are going to continue as they have been with the social distancing. Through this, there has been a lot of humor and a lot of memes, a lot of things I've enjoyed and laughed at, and I think we do need humor, so it's not just doom and gloom. But I also know behind that humor sometimes is a mask that we're trying to hide our anxiety and kind of our insecurities about what's happening and what's going on. So I just wanted to share, the book of Job. Book of Job goes through these emotions at the extreme level. Job had everything taken away from him, and there's no cause really given in the book of Job why. He had his family taken away. He had his health taken away. He had all his possessions taken away. Everything down to his life was taken away. And some friends come along that really do not give friendly advice at all. They kind of blame him and say something must have happened. So, he did something and needs to confess it. They say all sorts of wrong things that confuse him. And emotionally, Job is just stirred up. He doesn't really know how he feels from time to time, kind of like how we don't know how we feel. But in the book of Job, God at the very end kind of lays everything out there, and it's part rebuke because Job was seeing things from a narrow perspective. And God says in chapter 38, verse 4, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? And surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together?" Behind me, we have the expanse of the sky going over Thompson right there. And God made the sky. God made the lands. And we don't know that. If you read the rest of Job, he talks about the oceans and just different things and the way animals behave and react, and things that we can't explain, that we did not create. God did. So he has the ultimate perspective when we have a very narrow view, just in our personal perspective of what's going on. So just three takeaways for today. First, we are not the first Christians that have gone through hardship. We are not the first Christians that have gone through hardship. Actually, when you look at the disciples, for them to be called and for them to step away from the life as they knew it and to follow Jesus, who was going to turn things upside down. He had an upside down kingdom. So he was going against not only the Jewish rulers and law holders that didn't like what Jesus said, but they were going against Rome. Rome occupied that nation, and Caesar himself saw himself as a god. So anyone that was seen as a threat, as you can see, they tried to stop Jesus, and they would try to stop the disciples. When you read Acts, there's a lot going against the very first followers, the very first church. There's a quote on our Facebook today from Corey ten Boom: "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." If you've never read her book, The Hiding Place, I encourage you. It talks about this experience of a Christian family going through the Holocaust and helping Jews. Second, we are not the only Christians that have to meet in secret. I think I've been reminded of this maybe more than ever, because we're kind of forced into our homes, that there are Christian brothers and sisters around the world, and despite this virus, they have to meet every week in secret. I got to do this with some believers years ago in a country where they don't have the religious freedoms we do. We met in secret at a reserved hotel room, kind of a banquet room, but it was in secret. We had a Sunday worship together, because they cannot do that in a church building. They cannot do that freely. So I remember them. I remember that they have to go through that, and they still have to go through that every single week, and every single day that they worship. They go through persecution. We need to remember and pray for them. And then thirdly, we have a unique opportunity to grow closer to the Lord in our families and individually. With our families, I have a video it was the last video that I did. It's called Stuck at Home. And at the end of that video, there's several resources and stuff for your families to do family worship together, and some ideas how to do that. But we rely so much on ourselves and so much on our own schedules and our own planning. When all of that's taken away, we rely more on God. So we have a unique opportunity to rely more on God. So I pray that you do that, and I pray that we come out at the end of this looking back and saying, that was a spiritual milestone. Despite what was going on, that was a spiritual milestone for my family. That was a spiritual milestone for myself to personally commit more than ever to follow after Jesus and to tell others about him. So that's my prayer for all of us.